Hello, everyone, and welcome to APT University. Today, we are going to be taking an in-depth look at batch tracking in Advanced Pro, specifically through manufacturing and as it may be relevant to food or pharmaceutical manufacturers tracking a recall or isolating quality issues. We'll also touch in on how to do this if you're doing multi-layer manufacturing, such as first step batch product or bulk product, and then a second step for package product. So we will be taking any questions at the end, so feel free to put them into the questions tab of your GoToWebinar control panel at any time throughout the presentation, and we'll go ahead and answer them at the end. If you'd like to learn more about Advanced Pro, we have a full archive of our APTU videos on advancedprotech.com under the Resources tab or on our YouTube channel. Specifically, you might want to take a look at our general lot, serial, and batch tracking video to get an idea of the basics behind what we're going to be talking about today. Just a note about terminology. Our batch feature is part of our larger lot and serial functionality, and some companies may be using our batch numbers to record lot numbers and vice versa. If you're going to be using our batch feature, that usually deals with when we're dealing with items that you might be using percentages of, if you track it by the pound or by the gallon or by the liter, or items where you're dealing with very, very large quantities. This can really be helpful with respect to performance. So you will find that you may be using a lot number where we might be working with a batch number, and also the reverse. So today we're going to look at our batch feature. You might be using this for lot number tracking. Now one thing that's very, very key in track and trace is to make sure that you're always assigning batches at the time you receive, at the time of manufacturing, and at the time of shipping. If you're assigning batches after the fact or using an adjustment to create the product, you may dramatically affect your ability to audit, track, and trace your batches. So if you're going to be doing that, please consult an Advanced Pro trainer or an Advanced Pro technical support member to help you with that process. In Advanced Pro, we are going to be looking at the batch report primarily today. This is found under reports, under product reports, in the lot and serial report. And if you're working with batches, you'll have this batch-only report available. Okay, so in this case, we can go in and just say, let's say we have a batch number for an ingredient that's going to be recalled, and we want to find all the items that were manufactured with that batch, or vice versa. So here's the process. We would open up, and we'll open up the batch report, and we'll search by the batch, since we know what the product is that's being recalled, what the item is, and we'll go ahead and hit batch number there. So at this point, we now have a record of everything we've done with this item. We have the actual vendor order where we bought this item, and then we have all of the work order numbers by reference number that this item was used in. Okay, so we've got all these various work order numbers. Now what we would do in that case, we might jump over to manufacturing, and we might go look at our work orders and search by that work order number, that reference number, to find out what the item was that it was used in. And we can see in this case it was used to build these cookies, to make some cookies. So we're going to head back over to our report. We'll run a lot serial report now, filtering for those cookies. So we'll go ahead and run that as a batch report, actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in part of the product name in this case. You may need to put in a full product name or a SKU as well. So in this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and put in a SKU. I believe that's our full SKU. Let's take a look. Maybe it doesn't have an S on the end. There we go. Here it goes. So now it went and it found every single one that's come out of that product, and we can go look at our work order number, we can see, okay, so we're actually looking for batch 456. Hey, and that went out on a customer order. It went out on customer order 1138, and it went to a specific customer name. So this is how we can find the customers that are impacted by an ingredient recall in a typical process. And we could do the exact same process in reverse to find out if we have a problem with a final product. We can go back and track in reverse to find out, we got a complaint from a customer. We could go look up what customer was affected by using that batch report again. So we can go in and look by customer. So a particular customer is having trouble with the product. Let's go find out what batch that was. So here, this customer has received this product 3 times in our history. We have all of the batches they've received. We could go look at the customer order number, customer order reference that they got. And oh, hey, there's that 456 lot number of our finished product. We could then go back to the original work order where we got that 456. Again, lot and serial reports, batch. So we just look up the product by SKU. There it is. And at this point, we'd be looking for 456. And we can see, oh, that came from a specific work order, 44. What are the ingredients on that work order? Go take a look at the work order. Come back and look up the ingredient that we want to look at. Or you could just, if we wanted to, we could just do a general batch report for everything across the board, and we can search for that work order. So we can find text, and we want to find everything with work order 44. So we'd go ahead and find next. Oh, look, we got this one. So this is our baking soda that we used in it. And if we go look again, we might find another item or another batch that was used in that work order. This is going to give us an idea of which ingredients were used, and from there what vendors it came from. So we'll be able to see the vendor order number, and we can go look at that vendor order to see when we received it and who we got it from. So you'll see VO, CO, these are vendor orders and customer orders. WO, that's our work order, and these are really what's at play. We also have vendor returns, customer returns, and disassembly orders. Okay, so these are all reference numbers, and what that means is if we were to go look at our work order or our customer order or our vendor order, it wouldn't be under the order number, it would be under the reference number. And if you're not choosing order numbers or PO numbers, they may be the same, but they can also be different, as in this case where we have work order number 4500, but its reference is number 45. Okay, so that just talks a little bit about how you can go through and get your batch reports in the case where you are you now have a finished good and you want it to track backwards. Next, we're going to talk about multi-layer manufacturing. And in this case, we have a couple of work orders right here, 48, 47, and 46. We have the bulk juice, and then we have the juice in a 12-ounce package. Now, in this case, if we were to go take a look at that bulk juice, we actually used a Arm & Hammer baking soda item in this particular juice for some reason. And we could actually have the record of the lot number there. So we can look at it from the work order just by clicking on that LS button, or we can go and use our batch report, and that's what we're going to show today. So we're going to go into our reports, and in this case, we can look at it from the ingredient, but we're going to go through 2 steps. So first, we're going to get the ingredient, that 321. We're going to run a lot or serial report on that ingredient 321. And in this case, if we're searching by batch, we can just run it by the batch number. We don't always need the SKU. So we can get the batch number. We'll go ahead and run that batch number. And 321, hey, it was used in a couple of items. In this case, we're going to be looking at 47 is where it was used up. So work order 47. In this case, we happen to know it's the bulk juice. So I'm just going to take a look at that SKU. The actual SKU code for that bulk juice is APTU bulk J. So that's what I'm going to look for in our report. Lot and serial report, batch only, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it into the SKU APTU batch J. Okay, so this is how we can get to the product. Oh, Let's just take a look again. Perhaps I misspelled it. Bulk J, there's my problem. So we're going to come back to our report. Bulk J is what I'll search for rather than batch. Bulk. Okay, so we have our SKU correct. We'll go ahead and put that in. And now at this point, it's given us some outputs. We can see that it's had these two batches come from two work orders. They happen to actually have the same batch name, 1212. And at this point, we can go ahead and look at what our finished product was. So it came out of one work order, and it was used in another. So at this point, we could go ahead and do that. Now, there is a shortcut to this, because you might be going through 3 or more layers of these batch reports. So if you get it to that liquid state, and what you do is you put your batch number as 1212, and then when you package it, you have a batch number which includes the batch number of the liquid product, of the bulk product. You could now go to the batch number, and just by searching 1212, you'll see we actually have the bulk juice, but we have 1212 also as part of the name of the batch for the packaged juice. So now we can see when we produced the bulk juice, we got that 1212, and then we have all the ways we packaged it, and this might go into 3 or 4 different formats of the finished product, the 12 ounce, the 16 ounce, the 24 ounce, etc. And at this point, we could actually have each of those displayed, and in turn, if it's been shipped to a customer, we'll be able to see all the affected customers. If you're not using this kind of convention in your finished goods batches, if they're separate completely and in completely different conventions, then you would go ahead and you would search for the next layer up. So we get 1212-1 is what we get out of it. You could reference the work order and come back, and finally you could go and search for that, whichever customer that's gone to, and you would get your affected customers. So that's one way that you can go through these multi-stage manufacturing processes, and at this point be able to get the affected customers list. So then finally, just a couple of tips if you're going through this. I really want to point out, when you're running these batch-only reports, something that's really useful, since you can't filter by work order in the batch search, is you can use the Find Text button if you've got a work order number. If you need to go through a large history of your work orders, you want to find a specific work order or a specific batch or a specific product on a list, you can always find it using that Find Text function. Now, a couple other things that you might want to be considering is that naming convention where you have a batch and you're converting it into another product, maybe through a second layer of manufacturing, or maybe through adjustments in your warehouse without the manufacturing tool. I really strongly recommend having the original batch of the part translate into part of the batch on the finished good. That's going to give you full transparency just by searching the batch number. So this concludes today's quick tour of APTU, exploring the batch tracking for manufacturing. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the questions tab of your GoToWebinar control panel. And at this point, we are going to wrap up. We will take any questions at the end, but thank you for watching. Seeing no questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks.